welcome back to DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast and our first proper episode of 2024. So we all hope you had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Obviously we started off the year with Callum Ilott last week. If you haven't given that a listen already, I cannot recommend it further. A really good episode of Callum. Do give a listen, he gives a lot into his IndyCar future as well as his IndyCar past. Looking at this week, it's a bit of a weird one because it is only me. Don't worry, the other two will be back next week. However, the reason why is we're looking at the best of 2023. We're into 2024, so we're going to remember our best ever moments of 2023 in the podcast. So, as a team, we selected our favourite moments, our best memories in the podcast, and have combined them into one special episode looking back on the best moments of 2023. Let's start off with the very early days of the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast. Within the first 5 episodes, and let's head to episode 4, the greatest spectacle in racing. This, of course, was our reaction to the Indianapolis 500, and here's our immediate reaction to Joseph Newgarden's iconic win.
What a race, what a finish, what a winner.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I mean, I'm a big fan of Joseph, and I think I mentioned last week, or at least off record, that he's one of the drivers I most wanted to win. I felt that because it's eluded him for so long, I think 11 previous attempts, despite his 2 championships, this was sort of a legacy-defining moment. It was something he needed to be put into that debate with sort of the great IndyCar drivers. So it felt a big day. It felt like a pretty historical moment for Newgarden personally in terms of his career. Yeah, in that regard, I don't feel like anyone really deserves it more. I mean, you could see how much it meant to him as he jumped into the crowd and celebrated with the crowd, which is something he said he'd planned to do. You know, he'd scouted out areas where he could get through, and he's a man of the people. I think that's a good thing about him. He's kind of someone who has recently shown to be a good personality, and it was also telling of the person that he is. I think at the end of his press conference, he signed off by thanking all the journalists for their coverage of the event, and he's just I think he's a great winner.
Funny you should say that, because this time last week on the podcast, I said it's about time Joseph Newgarden wins an Indy 500. He cannot be considered a great driver until he wins one. And what does he do? He goes and wins one the week after. And yet again, I criticise an IndyCar driver. I say they're not going to do it. And what do they go and do? They do exactly what I said they won't do. So probably about the 3rd episode in a row that I've cursed a driver. So whoever I curse for Detroit this week is likely to win the race. So there we are. But all seriousness, huge congratulations to Newgarden. I think a very well-deserved victory. He kept his head really cool, and I think we'll probably touch on this later, but what we noticed throughout the entire race is he was just progressively getting closer. The Penske just looked so good in traffic, and something we noticed all month, how good the Penske was behind other cars, and he just did the job of the race. He kept it calm, and he took advantage of others' misfortune, which I'm sure we'll touch on a bit later, but just a very composed victory.
Yeah, I mean, he navigated through the field so well because he started 17th, and it's not improbable to win from there, but I think there were other drivers people said before Newgarden, but he quite seamlessly managed to get through the field. He navigated a number of restarts very well, and ultimately he said that he was either going to put it in the wall or win. That was his mentality, and it kind of shows how desperate these drivers are to win this race and how much it means to them.
Newgarden rejoiced to the fans after his Indy 500 win, which was one of our most special moments of the year. However, he also rejoiced with fans on Twitter, and Archie made himself quite famous early on in the podcast for this incident.
So obviously, Joseph Newgarden, we kind of mentioned his media commitments over between Indy, and obviously touched on what it's going to do for the championship. But his media commitments have come in a different form.
Yes.
In some cases.
Yes, absolutely. So he tweeted just asking for people to send in their videos of the celebrations when he went into the stands. Obviously, being in the UK, it's quite difficult, about 4,000 miles away. But I had a picture of myself that I took during the jubilation of Newgarden winning the 500 with the TV in the background when Newgarden was going into the stands. So I replied to this tweet saying, from nearly 4,000 miles away, lo and behold, Newgarden likes it. And he didn't like any other responses, which I take great pride from. But that's not as far as it goes as well. Scott McLaughlin quote tweeted one of my tweets during the practice week of the 500, which for me personally as a McLaughlin fan is quite something. I tweeted just saying how nice it was to see, how excited he was on the broadcast after, I can't remember what day, it might have been Fast Friday possibly, but he was just in awe of the speeds around the track, and that came through in his interview where he was just joyous after stepping out of the car. So I responded to say how good that was to see, and he quote tweeted my tweet saying, "Living the dream, dude." So there we go. We've got some dive bomb connections with the Team Penske guys, and I also got a response off the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on race day, which was something as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
Twitter
there
famous.
we go. Twitter famous, the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast.
Maybe our favourite ever moment of 2023 was Will Power's iconic interview at Road America. From blasting the track to blasting Grosjean, it had a bit of everything. So let's look back at our reaction to our favourite moment of 2023.
Might be time to touch on the elephant in the room. Will Power and his crazy weekend. So we'll start off with practice 2, where he had a bit of an incident with Romain Grosjean, where kind of Grosjean blocked him at the kink. Pretty dangerous. And then a bizarre accident with Scott Dixon, where Dixon let the car in front of him through, who I think actually was Grosjean, and then didn't see Power coming. Completely sideswiped Power. They had quite a major accident. Power revealed his middle fingers at Dixon and had a bit of an altercation with Dixon. And then when we thought that was enough action, he had a pretty shoddy qualifying because he had a replaced car. And then I think his interview was one of the greatest things I have ever watched.
Yeah, I mean, starting at the incident, I think Dixon was recovering from a spin. He was very apologetic about the whole thing. You know, he owned up to it, and he has done multiple times, said, you know, that's my fault. You know, it was a rare Scott Dixon error, but Power was absolutely incensed. He got straight out of the car, charged over, he was gesturing, he grabbed Dixon, shoved him, then went back for seconds, it looked like, while the safety crew were trying to separate him. Dixon kind of looked a tiny bit bemused by the whole reaction, but it was understandable. It was a massive crash, and it was into a concrete wall as well. It wasn't like it was a place on the track where, you know, they're really anticipating coming togethers like that. Yeah, I think it was a heat of the moment thing for Power. They got in the medical car together, and it seemed like it had all kind of calmed down a little bit until qualifying, when Power realised his car, after, you know, he was having to be pretty much put back together with all sorts of new parts. His car wasn't performing, and that's when he suddenly realises, well, this is Dixon's fault. So he makes a comment over the radio, I think, blames Dixon, and then came the absolute masterpiece of an interview, really. And I think maybe still on this later that evening, when things had calmed down a bit, because this is also in Power's interview. He went and absolutely laid into the track and called the surface terrible when you go off, and he's almost breaking his back, and they need a kick in the butt. And yeah, he was going pretty crazy. But then I think it was the track president went and parked a sewage truck in front of Power's bus as punishment for those comments. Left the keys in it. Power drives it over and parks it in front of Dixon's bus, which is all rather petty. But it was a I suppose a decent way for it to blow over. And they were laughs and jokes the morning after, before the race. So they seem to have made up. But oh my god, I think then you had the other bit of Power's interview where he spoke about Grosjean.
Possibly the greatest 10 seconds of television I've ever seen. So just, if you haven't seen it, quote for quote, Grosjean is a piece of crap. If you saw what he did in practice, he needs a punch in the face. I think we were all kind of watching it in complete bemusement, but it was rather entertaining. Grosjean was a bit stupid, give or take, but I think the day that Power had, I think that all accumulated in quite an angry interview.
Yeah, it seemed that Grosjean just caught strays, really, of Power's anger. And initially, I actually thought he was being sarcastic at the start of the interview, and he was like, the track do a terrible job and all of that. I thought it was sarcasm. And then he kept going. Yeah. And then he kept going. And I was like, oh, right, so he's meaning this. To be honest, though, this lack of filter, I mean, it's a common thing for the drivers. You often see it on social media and making comments, the Newgarden and Ferrucci thing last year, McLaughlin liking tweets about Grosjean after Detroit. It's brilliant for the series. It's not the same as like F1 where it's boring, media training, and in the vast majority of other sports. Here, the drivers are just purely unfiltered. They'll just say what they want, and that's great. You need that sort of rivalry. And it was like the new willpower that won him the championship last year kind of disappeared for a bit. But then he did restore his calm, and it kind of seemed that, I don't mind this, have a bit of bite in him, but then also be that sort of renewed, more measured willpower on track. So, yeah, it was incredibly fun, and it'll be one of the highlights of the season, I think, when we look back on it.
Some of our favourite episodes of 2023 were the interviews. And one of the first interviews we got was with Ray Robb. Now, Ray Robb was fairly new to the series. People are still getting used to his name, quite literally. Even before I asked the very first question, Ray Robb knew exactly what we were going to ask. Here's his answer to it.
First of all, I appreciate it's probably a question you get asked quite a lot, but just for our newer viewers and people getting into IndyCar, you already know what I'm going to ask.
You want me to start? I don't even need to do that.
Where have you got the name from?
Yeah, so the story goes, and I usually cover up my Honda logo while I'm saying this, but my parents were big Corvette fans, so they decided to name me after the Stingray Corvette. But there's also a longer side of the story, which is kind of the heritage side. My dad's side of the family is from Stirlingshire, Scotland, or at least his heritage is. And so Sting is actually short for Sterling. And then both of my grandfathers had Ray in their name, and so it's kind of a combination deal, and they got Stingray out of it.
Cool. Interesting. There we are. For all of you wondering how the most epic man in motorsports got his name, there you are.
Stingray was one of two drivers we had on in 2023, the other being Tom Blomqvist. Now, Tom hosts a very unique feat, which we reminded him of.
Before we touch on kind of next year and what you've been doing this year, you've had a pretty crazy motorsport career. Seems like you've done a bit of anything and everything. So just if you could just give the listeners a quick overview to what you have done. You've beat Max Verstappen. Not many people can say that. But yeah, you've done everything. So give people a quick overview if you can to your racing career.
Yeah, none of the F1 drivers can say they've bit him in a season. So no, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, mate, I've done. Feels like the last 8 years or whatever, since I've turned professional, I feel like I've raced in almost every series you possibly can race in.
Okay, that was 10 years ago, but you've got to give Tom credit. Not many people can say they've done that. We asked Tom on what he thought his biggest challenge would be going into 2024. Here's what he said about the season.
Obviously, next year, for the first time in my career, I have to deal with racing on ovals. So, that's going to be the biggest unknown, right? Not the unknown, but that's going to be the thing that I've basically have zero experience with. But one I'm super pumped and excited for, because I love a new challenge, and that's exactly what it's going to be. So, yeah, hopefully I have the time of my life, and it kind of works for me, right? Like I'm next week I get my first laps at Indy, and
that's cool. That's cool.
It's going to be pretty wild.
One of our most enjoyable episodes was with Sky Sports IndyCar commentator Tom Gaymor. Tom has seen a bit of anything and everything in IndyCar. This experience in particular is probably one he doesn't repeat very often.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. I've known Rossi for a long time. He actually lived just around the corner from me here and slept on my floor the day before he flew to America for his first IndyCar test at Phoenix. And he genuinely was like, wish me luck. I'm going to need it. Rossi's a wicked character though. And when you get to know him, he's a lot less introverted than he is. But he's learning to be more confident with being introverted. He's really open and honest about it. He's super intelligent, like so mind-bogglingly intelligent, really analytical. That's why he likes to fly, because you can add up numbers and everything. And he's a really complex guy. He's I've got a lot of time for him.
As it's a special episode, we're going to give you some very special podcast content, a bonus piece of content which you've not seen in any episode so far. This is also from the Tom Gaymor episode. Prior to recording, Tom and us were discussing about the Sky Sports streaming service, where the technical problems seem to plague Sky quite a lot. However, maybe the technical problems weren't exclusive to Sky, and maybe more Tom instead.
Start soon.
It says recording.
There we are. Great start. Cool. Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast. And you see, we've got the cameras on this week because we've got a very special guest on the podcast, Sky Sports IndyCar commentator, Tom Gaymor. Tom, welcome.
Thank you very much. And my camera's working, and it's good to see and meet you all as well.
The man behind the mic. You finally all know what he looks like. So privileged to all our viewers.
This is not my commentary box, by the way. Everybody thinks I'm doing it from a broom cupboard. It's not. I am actually at Sky Sports F1. We do trial this new technology called the cloud, and that's why we do run into one or two technical issues every now and then. But it's been work in progress, and this year's been another step forward. And hopefully that continues next year as well.
Cool. So hopefully no technical issues today. I don't think the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast has ever had any technical issues. So fingers crossed.
I might jinx it.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. We'll see. The Sky Sports curse. But yeah, let's crack on with some discussions and some questions.
Yeah, so I think we want to start just speaking a bit about your career before we maybe move into some specific IndyCar discussion. I think first off, I'd just like to ask about your actual racing career before you moved into media. Can you maybe give the listeners a quick overview of the racing you did?
Yeah, it was so long ago, I can barely remember. No, I'm joking. 23 years ago, really, was when I was racing. I was really fortunate enough to sort of grow up karting, but I didn't have that sort of investment, that money that other families had, and off the back of that did very limited sort of national karting. Never actually drove a two-stroke kart, did four-stroke karting. And then I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to go and try out in Le Mans for Formula Renault Campus, which was funded by ELF, funded by Renault, fully funded first year in cars, living in Le Mans and racing all around France, all around Europe. And I was selected to be one of the 2 British drivers, together with a whole host of international drivers, French, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, American, Canadian, Romanian. It was incredible. There were so many of us, and we were so young. We just had the most wonderful adventure. And then I did a couple of years in France, came back to the UK, raced for a French manufacturer in Formula Ford for Miguel. So the likes of Jenson Button and Anthony Davidson had raced for Hayward Racing in the years previous to me. Formula Ford was booming in that era as well. So we had massive grids. We raced in front of really
Tom like that, or like nuts?
No, he did. I had something saying my internet connection was unstable,
right.
but I don't think it's. I don't know.
Maybe it is a Sky Sports technical issues curse.
Oh god.
Unreal.
I thought my mic was bugging out a second ago.
2 minutes in after I said we'd have no technical issues.
Oh god.
I'll send them the new link just in case he's got a region for any reason. Oh, there it is.
Good start. Good start. Oh, it was actually interesting.
It's gonna be a long day.
I don't know where did he end up? Where did he end up there?
He said that he
Someone got Button and Davidson.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh god.
I'm not sure what's happened there. I'm plugged in.
The technical issues didn't last long to hear, so new records.
I told you I'd curse it. So I'm actually plugged in, so I don't know what's happening, but they have been digging up the road, down the road. BT.
We'll blame that.
Yeah, blame BT. But so I don't know how far we got. We were back in the UK, weren't we?
Yes, back in the UK.
Maybe the longest running joke of the year was our predictions. Some were great, some weren't so great. But don't worry, we'll be doing a review of all our predictions later on in the year. However, we're going to highlight some of the best ones. One of them came from Archie in episode 7, our mid-season review, when we were predicting the last few races of 2023. Archie made a bold statement, but it turned out it wasn't too bad of a guess.
We're gonna have a guess at which driver is going to win the remaining rounds of the season, not individually, just which set amount of drivers going to win in the last 9 rounds of the season. So obviously we've got Mid-Ohio, Toronto, the doubleheader Iowa, Nashville, Indy, Annapolis, Gateway, Portland, and the Cuda Saga. So we're going to do this slightly differently. So gonna name a driver, gotta say yes or no, and then Alex Palou. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go. All round Alex Palou. I think next one, New Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Possibly times 3.
Possibly times 3. I mean, you could well win every oval race this season. I wouldn't be particularly surprised, to be honest. Particularly with short tracks coming up. There we go. 2 we all agree on. Someone else could name me 2.
I put Scott McLaughlin. I think he could do it. You'd have to see. It depends on the track.
Yeah, I agree with Scott McLaughlin as well. I think with, as I mentioned, the 2 of the races that he won last season coming up, I can see him being strong. I mean, I could even see him taking the fight to Newgarden, possibly on some of the short ovals. He was fairly close until the late stages at Gateway last year. It'd be a hard exercise trying to beat Newgarden on one of those tracks, but yeah, McLaughlin I can see winning another. Yeah,
I'm agreed. I think McLaughlin will pick one up. Looking at Portland quite favourably. I think Nashville as well. He went up very well at last year. You know, the lottery that is Nashville, anyone could win it. I think McLaughlin is too good not to win another race this season. Despite me saying he's disappointed me slightly, I think he'll win another race. He tends to have his weekends where he's right at the front for the whole weekend, and there's no way he doesn't have one of them between now and the rest of the season.
Yeah, another I would say Scott Dixon. I can't see him going the season without winning a race.
I've actually said no. Believe
Did
it or
you?
not.
Interesting.
I've gone bold. I see Dixon in the last couple of years hasn't been kind of the serial winner that we used to see him. So he won one race in 2021, which is quite early on in the season at Texas. And 2022, we saw him win 2 races. To be fair, by this point last year, he hadn't won a race either, but he won 2 races at Toronto and Nashville last year. And Dixon is incredibly consistent. There's no hiding from that. The amount of top 5s, top 10s he gets is unbelievable. But as he gets older, his outright pace, isn't strong. And when you compare him to someone like Palou in particular, but you also look at names like O'Ward, Newgarden, McLaughlin, he just, on a given race weekend, he doesn't seem quicker than all of them. And I think something will have to go his way for it to happen this year. And as I said, I don't think he's quite got the pace of all of them on a given weekend. Yes, he's a fantastic driver, but he'll get more podiums, get more top 5s, but I don't think he's got the outright pace on a given weekend to beat everyone.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. However, looking at Road America, he managed to charge from right towards the rear of the field back towards the front, and he did seem to have that pace. He was quite close to challenging O'Ward latterly. Yeah, I do agree. Over the course of the season so far, he hasn't maybe had the same pace as some of them, but I can see there being at least 1 or 2, looking at Nashville, more chaotic races maybe where opportunities do arise for him, and I can see him being the sort of driver that will pick up the pieces there.
I don't know. I see both the sides of it, to be fair. I feel like right now, not really, but like Dan said, he didn't win any races like last season up until this point, and he did towards the end, so it's possible, but I don't see it happening right now.
So another no for Scott Dixon. That's a surprising one, actually. Archie's in solidarity in picking Scott Dixon. Someone else, throw a driver out there who you've got.
I am going to go a bit bold and say Christian Lundgaard. I think
bold.
He's shown such pace on the road courses that I think I can see him. It's a tough one, but I want to be bold. I don't know if I'm being sensible, I don't know if I can see him winning a race. However, obviously he took a pole. He's clearly got the speed. It's whether Alex Palou can really be defeated. That seems the question. But yeah, I'd like to say Lundgaard looks like a likely next first-time race winner. I'll throw his name out there. I'm still not fully sold on him myself, but I think it's possible.
Almost did it last year.
Yeah,
so-
exactly. I'm not fully sold on it, but I think it's not completely out of the question.
So, the predictions were as follows. Everyone, please tell us like with tally. We all said Alex Palou. I think that was a fairly safe bet, and he obviously won. I think Mid-Ohio and Portland. I can't remember when the summer break was. I think it was between Brady America and Mid-Ohio. So he won in Mid-Ohio and Portland. I think that was a fairly safe bet, but it all worked pretty well for us all. Joseph Newgarden, again, very safe bet. He won both Iowa races, so well done everyone. That's 2 out of 2.
Round of applause.
Round of applause to the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast. Now, don't get too excited because it gets a lot worse from here on in. We all said Scott McLaughlin. He got close. He got very close at Nashville. He got close at Laguna. He got close at Iowa. 3 second places. But he just didn't get that win in the second half of the season. Don't get me wrong, he was much better in the second half of the season, but for whatever reason, they win.
Yeah, I mean, second half of the season for McLaughlin, I'm pretty sure you said he was your disappointment of the first half.
I did. He must have been listening.
So it was a great upturn, sort of post 500, really. I think was it top 9 in every race.
Yeah, no, really, probably, other than maybe Palou Dixon, definitely the strongest second half of the season of anyone.
Yeah, good turnaround.
Talking of Dixon, Archie, you were the only one to put Scott Dixon, and I thought that prediction was looking pretty safe until we got to Indy road course, and he decided to win 3 of the next 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys, your rationale at the time, and it kind of still sort of bears truth, really, was that he isn't the outright fastest, and he isn't the outright fastest. There were times in the season where he simply was outpaced by the likes of Palou, but he is still probably the most intelligent driver and the driver that can just manage situations the best. And we saw that for pretty much all of his wins, especially the first 2, just executing some just unthinkable strategies, tyre saving, fuel saving, and then to kind of stay cool amid the chaos at Laguna as well.
Yeah, mighty impressive. And I think I've learnt my lesson. You never count out Scott Dixon. Whatever the circumstances, he proved in both Gateway and Indy GP, you can never, ever count out Scott Dixon. So that's lesson learned. Archie, talking of sensational predictions, Christian Lundgaard, what a shout that was.
Was I the only one?
You were the only one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was possibly one of the most impressive weekend performances of the year, really.
Yeah, he was dominant.
Given that RLL, they improved, and they're definitely still improving on street courses, and obviously brought a good package there. But it's really road courses where we saw most of their strengths. So, yeah, for Lundgaard to actually take his win on a street course, yeah, brilliant performance. And yeah, I maybe expected it to come on a road course, but yeah, I'm happy with that.
No, that was an excellent shout. Only 5 drivers actually won from that mid-season review. The other one was Carl Kirkwood, who none of us mentioned. But yeah, sensational prediction. I feel like, looking back on it now, it was fairly obvious. All the signs were there. He had strong performances in Indy GP, at Road America, at Alabama. All the signs were there, I just didn't pick up to them. But yeah, very deserved race winner, and I'm glad he did win a race. On the topic of great predictions, let's have a look at this one. I predicted the IndyCar champion back in March alongside Archie. And one of us, we pulled the rabbit out of the hat. Talking of putting Alex Palou, your boy predicted it right in March. I put Alex Palou as the series champion. I didn't expect it to be this dominant, but I will happily take that. 2 good predictions in a row for me, so I'm very proud. But let's be honest here. Not all of our predictions were that good. Let's look back at that article and our predictions for surprise of the year. Mine was pretty strong again. Archie's, however, wasn't quite as strong. Now, time for another one of your horrendous predictions. Connor Daly is the surprise of the year.
I mean,
he was a surprise, so don't get me wrong, just not for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, if I took away the explanation, then I would I'd be in business, to be honest, because it was a real surprise, and it was as we've spoken about on here a lot, and don't really need to speak any more about. It was a pretty poor decision in my eyes. Maybe Hunter Ray's leadership would be helpful in the longer term, but it looks unjust getting rid of Daly, and it was certainly a surprise that they did it when they did. It came from nowhere. But yeah, my rationale was that he might grab a lucky win in a Nashville-style race, or have a really strong Iowa or something, and something happens to Newgarden. But yeah, don't really need to say much more about that.
And there's one prediction I was pretty proud of. Back in episode 15, even more silly season, I made this prediction, which turned out pretty well.
There we are, and whilst we're here, this is going to be the last sort of off episode between now and the end of the season. So we've got Gateway next week, then we're followed by Portland and Laguna. Race winning predictions for the last 3 of the season.
Well,
anyway.
Let's go race by race. So Gateway, Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah, don't think it's going to be too much conversation there. Portland.
I'm going to say Scott McLaughlin is going to defend his win.
Ooh. I'm gonna go. It's so hard. Alex Palou. He'll win the championship by winning the race at Portland.
Fair enough.
Across our various driver market predictions, one man stood out from the rest. Ignacio Montenegro. Who is Ignacio Montenegro, you might ask? Ignacio ended up being the talk of the podcast for several episodes straight as the Hunkos situation unfolded. However, here's the whole story of Ignacio Montenegro in the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast.
Hunkos. I guess it's going to be a fun one.
I am going to go for the Argentinian Touring Cars Championship leader, Ignacio Montenegro.
That is, if you get that right, I don't know what I'll do. I will do a bet chosen by the viewers.
Oh.
I think
Make sure
there
that
we go.
right.
If that happens, I will do a forfeit chosen by the viewers of the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast.
Gotta manifest this now.
How's that for an incentive? Calipino didn't even win it last year, apparently. He came third.
Oh, wow.
So
If it was third place, it would be Juan Manuel Casella.
Ignacio Montenegro came 6th last year. So maybe he had a bit of a flop year last year, did Ignacio. So yeah. I want him to chuck in Argentine, but I don't think I can be that adventurous. I'm not going to go as bold as Ignacio Montenegro or whoever the man is. Oh, I want to go another Argentine, but it's not really any motorsport. I'm going to just have to go. Let's go Jack Harvey.
No, I'll just chose it. Okay.
You're going to have to go for someone from the depths of Argentina now.
I will.
Connor Daly.
Connor
Daly.
Oh yeah. Bloody hell, Connor Daly.
Yeah, Connor Daly. That's going to be interesting. So you've got Jack Harvey, Connor Daly, and then Ignacio Montenegro. That's probably a combination you didn't expect when you loaded up the podcast to listen to it this week, but there you are. You never know. You never know with IndyCar. Let's cast our minds back a few episodes ago. Ignacio Montenegro. No idea how he's getting on. No idea how he's getting on, but let's get Ignacio Montenegro in that Hunkos 77.
Oh, God. Unbelievable. Imagine if it actually did happen. Just this random call, a scroll through Wikipedia. Yeah, this guy looks like he's good. He's fitting. Oh, my word. Yeah.
About a month ago, apparently.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's not impossible yet.
It's not, well, who's in the lead? The standings in Argentine touring cars. Let's have a look. This is major stuff.
Well, this is the thing. At the time, I was trusting Wikipedia. I don't even know if he was actually in the championship lead.
Ignacio Montenegro is currently first in the TCR South America Touring Car Championship currently, as things stand.
Is that the one? Is that the
no, that's South America.
I can't claim to be well versed.
He's currently 6th with 2 rounds to go.
Okay.
Doesn't look like he's going to win the title. I don't think. That looks like it's going to go to Lionel Hernia, a 48-year-old Argentine driver.
Maybe he's an outsider.
Maybe.
48 years old is not too old to be racing in IndyCar.
His brother played him for Boca Juniors, apparently, in the Argentine football. So Lionel here's got a nice, diverse
sporting family, maybe the perfect fit for IndyCar. He's in good form. He's won 7 races this year, and he's got an 129 point lead with 2 rounds to go. He might already be the champion. No, I think he's got to wait
impressive.
a bit longer. He might have to wait a bit longer, but Liga now here is putting a good effort. Our friend Ignacio Montenegro has had a frustrating last couple of rounds, including 3 retirements in his last 6 races and a non-points finish. But as I said, he's leading the TCR South America Touring Car Championship, so there's 2 rounds to go there, and it's pretty close. So we'll see how that gets on. But outside of the Hunko seat, maybe Grosjean versus Montenegro. Let's get him on a test somewhere. See how they get on.
Maybe
I'm all for it. I think if he gets the seat, we're going to be all our bad predictions were nullified by Ignacio Montenegro taking the seat. But yeah, we will see what happens.
Imagine.
We need to manifest Ignacio Montenegro. Ignacio Montenegro, we will tag you in our podcast preview. If you're listening to this, please give us the inside knowledge. Are you going to get this Hunko seat? Because I think that is what's on the tip of the tongue of every viewer and listener right now. They need to know the state of Ignacio Montenegro. Now, this plays into our hands from our wild prediction several months ago. And as confirmed to us last week, Ignacio Montenegro will be the next IndyCar driver. So, there's a seat there. I think our prediction's looking quite safe, to be honest.
Hola, Ignacio, if you are listening.
Again.
If you actually understand any English. But yeah, he seems to confirm. He didn't confirm when. Maybe this is in years to come. But maybe he knows something we don't. And maybe this actually is happening.
Just to confirm, we did mention Ignacio in our last post. His words, not mine. For sure, I will be next IndyCar driver. Ha ha ha.
The ha throws it into a little bit of doubt.
He might be laughing it off. Maybe it's a strategical tactic by Ignacio, just to slightly askew us, maybe to think we're going off track. But it all lines up. You know, he's dominating Argentine touring cars, just like Canapino. He's Argentinian, so he'll get the support. And there's a free seat. I mean, it's all lining up to me. He's young. He's got potential.
I mean,
maybe he's just
there's no flaws. There are no flaws. Do you see any flaws of it? Because personally, I don't.
If he maybe he can, exclusively announce it on the podcast if he does.
Ignacio, if you ever want a podcast appearance, let us know and we'll see your IndyCar future. But it's looking bright. We were laughed at when Archie predicted Ignacio Montenegro back in, what was it, July?
It would be ages ago.
A long time ago.
Sometime around then, yeah.
Sometime around then. And here we are, several months later. And it's not impossible. Out of all our predictions, maybe the worst one was made pre-season. Archie and myself made some predictions for the 2023 IndyCar season at various different topics, like Champion, Indy 500, but one of them was the most improved category. This one didn't go too well for Archie. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back onto more favourable terms for me. We'll say it's 2-1 to you so far. Your predictions have been closer. Most improved, I put Carl Kirkwood. You went for Jack Harvey. I think we've touched on Harvey for your sake. I won't say too much unless you want to say anything.
I was just going to say I'm not going to speak. But yeah, my rationale was that it couldn't get much worse. But clearly it did somehow get worse. Yeah, poor Jack Harvey.
Maybe that was the worst prediction of the year. However, Archie may have redeemed it with this special moment, which will long live in podcast history. Viewers, put up your scores. You should have 85 for the top 5s, 87 for the liveries, and 107 for the lap leaders. So see how many you got. The scores on the doors. Ali, how do you think you did out of 85?
I feel like I did better than I thought.
Give me a number. What you thought you got?
How many was that of? 85?
85.
Like, maybe 60?
62. 62. So about to Archie, you probably had the hardest one. You had 87 questions. How do you think you did?
87. Wow. I'm gonna go for 51. I don't know whether that's ambitious or not.
That is the best guess of the entire episode. 51 correct answers.
Wait, let's go. I think I win by default from that.
I think
Unbelievable.
that deserves some extra points for getting that bang on. Archie, if you guess how many right I got 107, you win the episode. I can't believe you got that.
There are a few error ones. 74.
63. But that 51, shout of the episode. Wowee. That's
a moment to go down in history.
That is a Dive from IndyCar podcast legendary moment, I think. Along with, I don't know what other predictions you made, but that is certainly up there with some of the best. Was that the greatest ever podcast moment? You could argue it was. The IndyCar season ended in September, but the Dive from IndyCar podcast had the goal of still making weekly episodes between now and St. Petersburg. We still have 2 months to go, but it's looking more promising than it was in October time. And things were looking bleak, and we were going a bit crazy. One of our favourite off-season segments was looking into Lee Diffey's commentary career. We dug into it a bit further, and he's done a lot of the weird and the wonderful. Here's our research on Lee Diffey's commentary career. Diff is back at it. Last week he was calling the shots at Road Atlanta in true Diff fashion. This week he's in the studio for the Rugby World Cup final. What a man.
Have we found any commentary from this? I did have a brief Twitter search.
I searched it up, so it seems like Diff was not commentating, but he was like the studio host for the Rugby World Cup final.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just so random. If you didn't know, we've done quite a bit digging into Diff's commentary career. And we found some incredible things. I'll try and play some now if I can. But we found IndyCar Formula 1 back in the day on NBC, which is very cool. They still did the really unnecessary every time something remotely interesting happened.
It's time to bring the action. Not a great start from Hamilton. Look at Vettel. Vettel blasts through the middle of the Mercedes. Oh my goodness. Wow. Good grief. That has been a massive accident. And here we go on the grass. Oh! God. They're both out. His teammate at the age of 18. Max Verstappen is the youngest ever to win in Formula 1.
Indeed.
They still did that. Then he's done all sorts. He said he did Bathurst. He's done NASCAR, and every NASCAR. Is it Rick Allen who does NASCAR, and everyone finds him a bit boring. And
what else has he done? He did golf, didn't he?
He did golf. But the thing about Diff on NASCAR is every time I search his name on Twitter, it's just people like, we need Diff back on NASCAR. And he did. I think it's Michigan 2017, where Larson wins it on a late restart.
Entering the Geico restart zone. Let's go. Larson's trying to split him. He's in between the two Toyotas. He bounces off Martin Truex Jr. right in front of Matt Kenseth, and he's on the low line. Kyle Larson with a blinding restart.
I think he's done Bathurst as well, MotoGP, and then as you said, golf.
Yeah, he does. Oh, he does like the supercross or something. The bikes.
Does he? Right.
The bikes that do the jumps. Don't know how to put it any more technical.
Yeah, and then he did rugby sevens at the Olympics once. He does IMSA obviously. He's done rowing at the 2016 Olympics. He's done Superbikes World Rally Championship, MotoGP. He's done luge, skeleton, and bobsleigh at the Olympics.
Winter Olympics. Yeah.
I found a clip of that, so we'll try and play it now.
He's doing it again, 4 times cleanly through. That is the hardest part on this track. Turns 9 through 12, and Mazda has blitzed it. He's up by 0.02 of a second on Glacier. Good 15. That's what he needed in the 16. He's lost some time. He doesn't need to beat Glacier. Just ahead. He goes second. And that's enough to guarantee a medal for Team USA.
But Diff on bobsleigh is honestly unbelievable. It's so good. This is the greatest thing about Diff. You don't see Crofty going and commentating on. I don't even know. Well, he does track and field as well, doesn't he? Just Diff. He's like the main track and field commentator in the US. And
I've also got sailing here.
Sailing. That is quite something. But yeah, he's done the rugby this week. But yeah, as I said, you don't see Crofty just randomly doing the curling at the Olympics, do you? Or see him doing the pole vault. But here's Diff, and he just does anything and everything, and he's so entertaining.
I want to see it. I want to find a clip of him on golf because, so it's also loud and excitable and on your feet. Whereas golf, commentators are classically quiet.
Yeah, you can't imagine Diff of lacking enthusiasm or motivation, can you? He's always just so. I don't know. Just listen to him. Just puts a smile on my face because it's just so. He just seems so excited in what he's commentating.
That was like me. That was like me during Petit. I went out of my way just to find Diff in the NBC commentary.
What Diff's really got to do now is put in his new main line into every sport he commentates. Like, let's say it's the bobsleigh. They're a 0.01 off. Is it possible? No, it is not. See, he's got to incorporate this in rugby. Like, if someone's about to get a try. Is it possible? And then someone tackles it. No, it is not. See, we need this sort of stuff. Diff, if you're listening and you ever do this, I don't even know. He will be claimed as the podcast GOAT. I think
he almost is already. To be fair,
he almost is already. But that would solidify him above Ignacio Montenegro, above Christian Rasmussen, above Ray Robb. All the already existing podcast GOATs. Who does that? That's going to be quite something. Maybe the most iconic segment of the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast off-seasoning phase was none other than the IndyCar tent. Yes, you have seen that correctly, the IndyCar tent. Here's the full segment of us and the iconic IndyCar tent. Right, one last really off-topic nugget that I want to raise this week, but is of the interest to the viewers. So, unfortunately, the time has now passed, but IndyCar were doing a massive sale on their shop.
Yeah.
So
let's go.
We had a little scroll through the IndyCar shop, and my word, do they sell some interesting merchandise. My favourite being the IndyCar tent. So if you ever want a tent to put it's like on those tents you have a market or a what they call a car boot sale, like that. Yeah, like a marquee almost. Yeah. You could buy an IndyCar marquee for the grand price of $300.
How much?
So, $300 if you want an IndyCar marquee. There's also a Firehawk mascot plush hat. Yours for $40. I need to try and find another one, which was the IndyCar.
We had Hawaiian shirts.
We had a Hawaiian shirt.
Straw hat.
The straw hat was $20. You can get a Roman Grosjean Man on Fire bucket hat for $20.
Oh. If you had a hand in that.
So I don't know if we designed them, but they actually look like it's definitely the type of thing you'd wear to a festival. Put it that way. And yeah, there's some other. I ain't gonna go too much into it because I can't really see all there was in there. But there's the standard shot glasses and random stuff like pillows and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just all very, very random stuff. I want to know how many tents IndyCar have sold. Have they ever sold a $300 tent with IndyCar branding on it? Because
someone's got to have bought it. Like a diehard.
Do you know anyone of a need for a $300 IndyCar tent?
So it's not like a proper camping tent. So it's not something somebody would buy.
No, it's like a marquee thing.
Maybe people buy them to put on the side of their RVs, like when they're going to
if they sell IndyCar merch. Yeah, maybe.
I certainly wouldn't be spending. Did you say it was $300?
$300 for an IndyCar marquee. So, any viewers out there, if you've ever bought this IndyCar marquee, please make yourself known because.
And please send us a picture as proof.
He said, I want to see it as proof.
You think you are lying.
But there's
These
more
are
stuff.
being
Listen,
used.
listen to this. I'm looking at it now. An IndyCar plush hedgehog, $40.
Chog, what relevance does that have?
An IndyCar deck chair, $65. An IndyCar American football mini, $25. What else is in there? There's a
Is this
vegan
post
leather
sale?
post sale, but these went on sale anyway. These items.
Okay.
So why they didn't put the tent on sale, I've got no idea. But a vegan leather tote bag, $45. You
Vegan.
can get a vegan. It's vegan. So any vegans out there, you can buy.
So, does anyone have any idea how it's vegan?
I guess it doesn't use cow leather, I guess. But
Oh, is it
no.
leather? Okay, it's leather. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. An
Yeah, that'll
IndyCar
be
llama you can buy on sale for $18.95. An IndyCar golf ball, yours for $3. I can't see if there's anything more in here because these are just excellent purchases. I think that's it. Of the really, really random purchases.
I mean, you can get an IndyCar Elite chair for $65, which
Yeah,
basically
it's
just looks
like
like a camping
a
chair.
So, if you made advantage of the sale and bought any items, please share it to us. Please DM us at Project DIVEBOMB because I want to see the purchases you've made. And the off-season really does get you thinking. So let's cast our minds back to episode 24, the first ever off-seasoning segment. I think this made me go a bit nuts, as I proposed my ideas if we were ever going to take over IndyCar. Here's the context to us taking over and the idea itself. £2,000 spare, what'd you do with it? Instead of going to the thermal club?
I mean, for us, probably fun to fly over and go to a normal race.
That's what I say. Fund a trip to the Indy 500.
Yeah, fund a trip to the 500 for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, flights are like $1,000, aren't they? And that might be one way. So
We should just start a GoFundMe.
Fun flights. We'll figure everything else out.
We'll live skimping in the road, not in the road course, and IMS for 2 weeks. We'll stay in the golf course or something.
Or we could stay in we could stay in the media centre. Maybe we can flag our way there.
Stay in the media centre.
Somehow.
Oh, well, now we're best friends with Tom Blomqvist and we made him famous. He can invite us to his motorhome. So thanks, Tom. Very kind of you. Say something else about it. Yeah. But how about everyone? You share this podcast to more people. You get our name out there. You give us 1 billion views, and we'll have the funding to go next year. It's all on the listeners. You haven't shared it enough. Share it enough to someone else, and we'll get the money to go. This time next year, if you just share this episode to the next person, we'll own IndyCar by this time next year. I'm sure of it. We'll be making all the decisions. Roger Penske will be off, and we'll be owning IndyCar. We'll make all the decisions. What decision will we make? What's our first policy?
What did you say? What were you asking?
What's our first policy when we become in charge of IndyCar? What we're changing first? No ads?
Really?
No
What
ads?
was? I mean,
No,
yeah. What did we say on our? We did the episode, didn't we, about what we changed? Blue flag rule.
No, you got to do something fun. You got to make like a stupid rule. Like every race, you've got to do a driver swap where you get a random person, a random fan has got to do 1 lap, and then you bring back a normal driver. You got to do some stupid rule, otherwise it's not fun. See, how fun would that be? You get 54-year-old Dave from New Mexico in.
It may cause the sport to lose its integrity, but it'd be fun.
It'd be fun. Do a non-championship event. Get random people from the stands to do like 5-lap stints. And then, what happens if Pelot's man ends him up like a lap down? And his Pelot's got the whole race to catch up, and because he's the best, you've got a challenge on our hands. So that would make it. Or they've got to have a NASCAR double up. And they go to IMS Oval. You've got to do the NASCAR driver's got to do a lap in this guy's IndyCar, and then the IndyCar driver's got to go in the NASCAR for a couple of laps, and it's a combined event. See,
wild idea.
It's a good idea though, because it'd bring in both fan bases. It'd be very popular. It's at IMS. I don't think. See, that's how they should have done the double header weekend. They should have just literally combined the races. and get the NASCAR drivers in the IndyCar and the IndyCar drivers in the NASCAR. That'd be brilliant.
The problem is though, would that actually end good? That's the thing.
I think so. They're all professional racing drivers. Well,
I mean,
actually, no,
true,
it'd be a
but-
bit harder for the NASCAR drivers than the IndyCars. I think some of them, dare I say, it might be a bit big. But we'll ever be the optimist.
Maybe that's the exhibition we need rather than thermal.
Maybe. Who cares
Maybe in
about
addition to
Argentina?
thermal.
Maybe. There's 3 weeks between that. No, 4 weeks between that and Long Beach. 2 weeks after the thermal. Actually, no, you need to do it after the Indy 500, don't you? So, how about on the Monday of the Indy 500 you do that race? Because, why not? That's good fun. I'd like to see it. I think it'd be a good chat. Everyone's on, like, here's Castro Neves and Daly wants to do Daytona. Let's just force them to do it. Let's not give them a choice. That would be fun. See, that would help Ignacio Montenegro next year as well, because he's got the touring car experience. So, it'd be
why not?
This time next year, Ignacio Montenegro will be an IndyCar race winner by driving a NASCAR. No, sorry, 2 years' time. We've got to take over next year, and then the year after. We'll be sorted. There we are.
Seems doable.
Yeah. See, this is what I said. You've all got to share the podcast to someone else. We'll share it to someone else. And then we'll get 1 million views. And then we'll take over IndyCar, and this will happen. It's a foolproof plan, in my opinion. It's a foolproof plan. So there we are. The viewers, you know your responsibility this week. So, although we're reviewing the whole of 2023, this moment came in our very last official episode of 2023. Our Christmas special. Quite a challenging episode, I must say. From finding IndyCar figures as Christmas figures and Christmasizing IndyCar drivers' names. However, I added an extra segment on the end, which gave it my own personal challenge. Here's one of the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast's moments of the year. So, running out of time, but I want to do one more thing. So, we were trying to get an AI to sing a Christmas song, but we couldn't do it. So I made our own version, which I'm going to attempt to sing. So are we ready? Just to end off the podcast and end off the year, sort of. So, are we ready?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
All right, well, we'll see. I can't sing very well, so excuse the singing, but the lyrics is what matters. We racers from IndyCar, racing round, we travel afar. Indy, Barber, St. Pete, we're following Perlo's car. Oh, races in day, races in night. IndyCar drivers do turn right. Perlo leading, all proceeding, all for podium step most high.
That is absolutely brilliant. That was fantastic.
That is a podcast moment there. The IndyCar version of
is a
Reed
moment. Fair play. That was a lovely rendition as well.
So I'll try and add some more verses, but there's the first sneak peek.
Hey, if you have any verses, or if you want to send us a voice note, maybe to play out in the new year or our Boxing Day episode, then please let us know. Although I'm not sure people will necessarily want to do that, but you never know.
Your Christmas rendition of We Three King, the DIVEBOMB IndyCar Podcast's best moments of 2023. Quite a lot packed in there. Our favourite segments, our favourite bits of the interviews, and many, many more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned next week. Not quite sure what's going to happen yet, but stay tuned. But we've got some really exciting news. Me and Archie will be back for 2 bonus episodes this week on Wednesday and Thursday morning, reviewing the press conferences from the IndyCar content phase. So stay tuned for 2 bonus episodes this week as a special little off-season gift. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I hope to see you on Wednesday and Thursday. See you then.